Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you back to the Dynamic Decisions podcast, where we explore the strategies that drive successful decision making in the world of business. Why? Because the best decisions come from great conversations. I'm your host, Tisha Cable, CEO of C Model Data, and today we have an awesome leader in e-commerce and digital transformation. His name is Muliadi. He's the founder of iCube. He's got over 20 years of professional experience working extensively in both the US and Indonesia. So he brings deep expertise in retail innovation and leveraging technology to improve real business outcomes. So Muliadi, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. I'd love to learn more about you and iCube. Tell me all about it. Let's jump in.
Thank you, Tisha, for the time. Pleasure to be here with you today and sharing some of the story with you. I've been in the e-commerce industry for almost 20 years. I used to live in the States 16 years. I studied there, graduate, Cal State Fullerton, and then from day one, just being absorbed into IT web industry on the career. I guess that's like 97 when I graduated. So that's like where the prime, the dot-com bubble at that time, if you still remember that, how far that is. But then from there, we learn a lot. We really have such a lucky time to experience twice, right? I mean, in the States where the e-commerce just started, and during that time, I worked with some brand from Foot Locker, even the Opera store. I went to Chicago with them, but then and then able to go back in Indonesia. I went back here 2010 and re-experienced again just the starting point of e-commerce in Indonesia. I mean, there's obviously some familiarity. I mean, in the beginning of it, but there's also so much difference between the two markets. So it's just such a great chance. I mean, great opportunity for me to be able to experience this too. From there, basically, I built my team in Indonesia mainly for the developers, and now we've been serving almost, I would say, more than 200 brands across 15 years in Indonesia. Our clients, mostly retail, local retail in Indonesia. 80% of our clients is based in Indonesia, and 20% we still have a client from US, Australia, and some in Southeast Asia as well.
So if you had to think about these brands, specifically in Southeast Asia, what's the most critical thing for these companies to succeed when they're trying to connect with customers today in this digital first marketplace?
I think when we jump into this space, right, I think the whole e-commerce is still completely brand new. Most of the brand, especially local brand, if it's the brand from US, probably there's already some familiarity with the brand.com, building the website, stuff like that in the US. But for a local market, e-commerce is really something completely brand new when we entered the market in 2012. The thing with the demographic of Indonesia, we are majority driven by young people, literally people age 15 to 30. That's like compositions almost more than 50 to 60%. So when we say technology leapfrog, in the States, we experience a progressive from desktop era, laptop era, going to mobile phone, and people start talking about a mobile transition from the web in US around that time. But here we don't go through those laptop or desktop era. Everybody just jump into the mobile phone. So we have this bunch of young people very receptive to technology and the whole breakthrough in communication through mobile phone that changed the way that they interact with the brand. So when e-commerce is being introduced, we go straight into how can we use the mobile phone. In our term, we're not like mobile first, like in the States, but we do mobile only because that's where we actually engage with them. So we a lot of the brands just have to learn and speed up that process to understanding how to use this technology to reach out to the audience.
So what types of like strategic decisions have you really seen these brands make differently when they embrace this transformation?
First of all, they have to change the way from the management side. Obviously, a lot of the retail come from the classic retail KPI, where they're looking into everything from the location perspective, from the product perspective, how much each store can generate revenue for them and things like that, right? So changing the mindset from KPI into more consumer journey KPI, that's completely something that not all brands actually ready. Even right now, after 15 years I'm here, it's still a process. Not everybody actually able to jump into that wagon. So that's the first thing that has to change. It's really a top down from the top management's ability to want to navigate into this new retail era where you have to focus on the consumer rather than the physical or the channel locations of that consumers. And then everything just follow from there, because that has to be coming from top down.
I would actually argue with you that this is the situation for all businesses. I think when we think about moving into the future, there's going to be a need to want, number one, to navigate. And then there's a level of transparency that is going to be required in the future economy. And they're going to have to go towards people and away from just technology and projects. And here's what I mean, because technology is going to do all the repeatable, mundane things. So all the true innovation and new stuff, right, is going to come from people. How are you going to get people to trust in this place that they can actually share with you? So I think that there's something about what you're saying that goes beyond just retail. I think it's everywhere. People are going to have a much more people-focused, people-centric way of doing business in the new economy.
No, you're absolutely right. I think a lot of the innovation that's happening right now, it's the breakthrough is open up the transparency. I think you got the right word, right? I mean, in the past, the silo is always there. I mean, whatever you do, there's people by default, business creating silo. But now with everything connected, with how easy we access everything, even we're talking about AI nowadays, it's all based on the foundation, and that information is all open, transparent. And this is where the culture is actually has to change. No longer that we can sustain as a business to live in this silo bubble, but then some people using democratizing the data, whatever you word. But at the end, it's all about sharing this knowledge and ability to embrace that across different businesses, and that create this very rich culture, new culture.
I agree. And so as someone who's like passionate about making technology accessible and effective for people and businesses, how do you actually make sure that the solutions at iCube are both innovative and user friendly, especially for the diverse markets that you're working in across Southeast Asia?
Yeah. It's just, that's really very key. That's why we think that we bring value, right? I mean, because we want to make sure that technology, number one, people don't be afraid to use that. I mean, a lot of things, obviously, people doesn't like change, and technology, unfortunately, bring changes.
Yes.
So the first thing, reaction of that, obviously, a lot of people very defensive on the changes itself, and they just don't want to use it.
Right.
So when we try to apply like technology into the business, obviously we want to see how do they do it. I mean, we want to make sure that we not give them. I mean, obviously everything has a learning curve, but we have to give them a baby step on this learning curve. Like for example, in Indonesia, we use WhatsApp on almost everything. And this is very different in US. US probably using messages, Apple iMessage and stuff like that. But Indonesia, a browser is not something that people familiar with. They're familiar with apps. They're familiar with WhatsApp. So if I just use technology from Western and say, here, just use browser. Everything is in the browser. It's a magical thing that you can just do everything. It would work because they just not used to that, right? So the question is how can we just use technology but still using, like I said, WhatsApp to interact with them? How we infuse new way of working through WhatsApp? conversational, and things like that. It seems very small things, right? But that make a lot of difference, because at the end, without the adoption of that the people want to use it, then technology is just technology will just never work.
So this is great because this leads into some of the things that I wanted to ask you in this next part here. So you talk a lot about speaking with as a mentor. You talk to emerging business leaders all the time. When you're advising them on leveraging technology to actually grow their businesses, what are some of the key principles that you emphasize that really help them to navigate through the challenges of transforming digital?
Before we apply any technology, obviously we have to know exactly the why, the pain point, and what we want to address, right?
I want to go,
Uh,
yes, yes, yes.
I mean, being a technology enthusiast, there's a trap that we want to be FOMO. Okay, this is the biggest trend of technology. We're just going to use full bang of that, right? That's essentially just not going to be anywhere with that. And sometimes we just have to look back. Okay, all right,
Yeah,
what are we addressing here? Is it a new market? Is this a new audience? Is
come
this a
on.
new operational efficiencies that we want to try to achieve? Right? And simple step. A very recent, I mean, conversation. I think a lot of people asking, okay, how AI? How are we going to use AI? Right? A lot of people just jump into this wagon without knowing exactly what they're trying to solve, and they think that AI is just a magic wand that can change everything
Lies.
into beautiful things, right? But I always said to my client, my mentoring, right? AI can only enhance what you do. It's not going to make somebody and that not able to do something magically do something. So
Uh-huh.
that's not what AI do.
That's right.
It makes the mundane, like you think that there's something you do repeatedly, you really hate to do it. I mean, obviously things that like that AI can do very well. Things
Yeah.
that logically that you do decision every day, those AI can really do that. Right? So ability to figure out which part of the work that you really want to enhance with AI is important before you actually investing on AI itself. Right? So that's just one very simple example that we just have to be actively assess before we actually choosing what technology we want to use.
It's the most important thing. Do not underestimate the power of why in everything. I think if business leaders start to understand and really ask themselves why they're doing anything, how is this going to help me achieve my outcomes? What are my outcomes? This is the language C model talks on purpose, because if you don't have a problem, what is it that you're solving? If you don't have an opportunity, what are you doing?
And it's very surprising. A lot of people do stuff and they don't really have anything to measure with. Like you don't have the outcome that you want to measure. I mean, you ask them what your success measurement, and they would just, I don't know. I'm just following the trend. I'm just doing this because everybody doing this. So, I mean, that's can be very frustrating, because then you end up in a cycle of doing the same thing over and over with different technology without any really outcome that you really want. And that's the trap with the technology, unfortunately.
It's also an expensive trap, because then
It
you
is.
find yourself down the line, you've spent a ton of money and a ton of time, and you have nothing really to show for it. Growth goes stagnant the same way it would have with or without that technology, right? So it's all that why question is very important.
Yeah. And people sometimes just measure the loss only in the how much money that they spend, but it's a lot of the loss of the time. You're repeating stuff that you're supposed to be able to progress, and there's many lost opportunity that and then costs that you just cannot measure that way.
That's 100%. We love to call that opportunity cost. No one, if you ask someone how to measure opportunity cost, it's a blank stare. They have no idea until you start counting it. So, hey, here's for our audience. This is a message for the audience. I want you to think about your organization's approach to retail innovation specifically, and also digital transformation. What strategies have made the biggest impact on your customer connections and your business growth? We'd love for you to share your experiences with us on LinkedIn or other social media. Please do us a favor and link it to Dynamic Decisions Podcast. Okay, let's talk a little bit about leadership. So you've got over 2 decades of experience. You've worked in the US and in Indonesia. So you bring this unique cross-cultural perspective to your leadership at iCube. I'd love to know how you think about collaboration within your team and how you do that to deliver tailored e-commerce solutions that actually resonate with your market.
I'm lucky enough to have a great mentor while I'm in the States. So I've been working with a smaller agency multiple times, learning directly from the owner and ability to basically uh, impart me with a lot of the skills across the board. But one thing that I learned really well, like, I mean, leader being a leader, I think the successful leader is measured by how many leader you can grow. And the thing is a lot of the trust need to be built within the team. Right? We are very unique as a company. When I came back in Indonesia, is something that I brought from US is ability to work in the very remote format because we have to serve US client when we're beginning. So it's not we don't have a choice. We have to work at night, so there's really no point having an office because we work at 11 at night until 5 o'clock in the morning. So everybody just work in their own comfort room, but we still very much connected using video conference like this. So we do this even before pandemic. So we do whatever people are saying, remote working. There's really no term for us for that. But that's where we learn the culture of over communicating a lot of stuff, building trust across while we don't see each other. How can that culture is actually being built? That's also among the team, the leadership. It's difficult. I mean, when we choose our teammate to be joining us, obviously we have to see that they have to embrace this culture first. And this is very important, regardless how smart they are, how good they are. I mean, as a developer engineer, obviously we are majority engineers. If they cannot work in this setup and the trusting setup, being self-disciplined and over-communicating in this particular format, and it just won't work in our company. So we're growing with this kind of mode from just 5 of us until we hit 150 people, still doing the same format. I'm quite happy to see how our teams actually mature in this thing. But I always tell my team, right, the whole mentoring system, the whole how we have to be comfortable to open up and over communicating a lot of the things and trust, because when you don't see trust is very hard. You are wondering, okay, when I ask you something, you don't respond within 10 minutes. Are you listening to me? Are you actually doing my stuff? So that kind of things, it become a two-way understanding that has to be built. There's some mechanism that we agree. If I do a mention to you, I expect a 15-minute response from you, at least saying, hey, I got your message. We'll do this, or I'll respond back to you by this. So a lot of those things, it's kind of easy when you're in the format, when you see in the same room, but when we're not in the same room, that kind of things has to be emphasized and overdone in a certain way. Returning status back to the client because we already built this culture, then very transparent back to our clients. The status what we do is become things that we already built into our teams. So this is something that we learn across. I mean, it's still continue. We have to keep reminding ourselves, and we're already doing this 15 years. It's still a continued process.
I think what I'm getting out of this, I like this overemphasis. I think that we underemphasize a lot of times around communication. So essentially, you just gave us a framework for successful collaboration. And let me give you the things that I really took away. So this two-way understanding. So a lot of times people talk about alignment, but a two-way understanding is much more human than just saying align. It's really about we all understand, and then the key to that is agreement. So that means that we've communicated that we effectively agree on what that two-way understanding is. So we're on the same
Mhm.
page. So it's not just that generic alignment term. And then the
Yes.
fact that trust is fundamental. So how do I get trust? I get trust through that two-way understanding and agreement. And then thereby I get successful collaboration. Boom. You just solved world peace just now. Okay. You just did it.
It sounds cliche, but it's very difficult. I think
No,
it's
it's
really
hard.
hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very hard.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that difficulty. Tell me about some of the things that you think are difficult and hard.
There's always that actor in this case, kind of things, right? Like I said, I mean, it's inevitable, right? I mean, so we have to keep telling all the teams that, hey, we on into this agreement together. This is what we agree. This is how we establish our ground rule. I even let the team to build the role. We not like try to create like, this is the law that we build in the company. Let's build the law together. I mean, that's where we see that if we build this together, then we respect the law together. I mean, so if we break it, then it's just okay. Then this doesn't work. The remote working we just need to wipe it out. We all go back into the same office. So things like that is something that it's very important. And we just have to aware. I mean, if somebody abuse it, then I'm sorry, then that's somebody that should not belong to the team.
Yeah. So this next question for me kind of hits home because I have significant beliefs that, giving back is important. So you have a role. You're both a founder and a mentor. And I'm just wondering how you balance the demands of running a growing agency with your passion for speaking and then really inspiring the next generation of business leaders. How do these things complement each other in driving your mission forward?
Well, first thing, what I feel like when I start sharing, I actually learning. Believe it or not, when we discuss like this, I learn a lot from you, and it's really coming back. When you give, you actually also
Yes.
get a lot,
100%.
right?
Yes.
So it's that's become a no. If you understand that, it's become easy to actually to start to give more. I'm lucky enough in belong to such a great community. I was part of the Magento associations, where there's a lot of great people inside this particular technology. It's an open source, very community driven. So I grew my career around people that really very much open and share and just don't hesitate to bring up the best of the community. So I saw that. I very much used that playbook and I bring to Indonesia. I followed through with creating the Magento event here, building ecosystem community, because that's very important. I mean, when it's the whole ecosystem is strong when everybody share. Right. I mean,
Yes.
that's just the nature of we can't just do everything alone, and there's so much that we can do.
So what I really appreciate is this concept of the ecosystem sharing, giving first. There hasn't been a successful scenario that hasn't followed that same trend and path. So I really appreciate you bringing that to light in this moment, and I hope that sticks with the people who are listening. Hey, so this is my favorite part of this exercise. We're going to do a decision-making persona assessment. I am going to explore your decision-making style. I'm going to ask you 4 different questions. Each one of
Okay.
them, they represent different approaches to decision-making. And after each one, I'm going to ask you to tell me how much the way that I've asked the question resonates with how you would approach decisions. And you're going to get a scale of 0 to 100% for each one. But there are 4, and you only get 100% across all 4. And
Okay.
because people ask all the time, and the answer is always no, I cannot give you all of them before you answer. Yeah, it's one at a time.
Okay.
So
Okay.
here we go. Here's the first one. It's called the feeler. The feeler is a values-driven leader. This persona prioritizes alignment with core values and mission, often weighing the human impact and cultural fit of decisions alongside business metrics. So when considering a new e-commerce initiative or technology implementation for our clients, I ask myself, does this align with our commitment to helping brands transform how they connect with customers while making technology accessible and effective? Even if a more technically impressive solution might generate short-term results, I need to feel confident that we're building lasting relationships and creating positive impact that extends beyond just business metrics. How much does approaching decisions by asking yourself that kind of values-based question resonate with you?
Well, I mean, without knowing the rest, I'm a sucker of that. So I give very high scores of 60 already on that.
Okay.
So I only have 40 to share on the rest.
That's right. 60% feeler. Let's see how it goes. Do you want
Let's
to
see how it goes.
let's see how it goes. Do you want to give me a little why? Tell me a little bit about why you're giving that 60% thing.
Well, that's really resonate on how I do the business. Unfortunately, I mean, people can agree, not to agree. But the thing is, like, that's kind of the core value of the reason I do the business. Technology, especially, it's like I said, it's very, very, very dangerous. As far as like, it's very easy to get away just to do stuff that just expensive and no value. But I have to come back with my when I built a company. My first mission is really I see a lot of this enterprise, very expensive technology. How can we bring the same value but more approachable to much more company in a more smaller size than enterprise, right? So how can we maintain the same enterprise quality of solution to everybody in general? And that's very important when we go into the third world country like Indonesia. Everything is 1/10 of the values. I mean, you're talking about budget, you're talking about everything. And then you're going to start. Are you going to give a 1/10 of the services, or are you going to be giving 100% but at the 1/10 of the price, right? So that's a very tricky questions, right? At the end, obviously, we decide we'll give you 100% of the value, but then, yeah, we will make it a way that it makes sense from the business, what the business can afford.
Good stuff. Here's the second one. It's called the planner. It's a strategic visionary. So this persona focuses on long-term implications and future-proofing decisions, always thinking several moves ahead and considering multiple scenarios. So when making strategic decisions about e-commerce solutions or digital transformation, I ask myself, what are the long-term implications of this choice for how brands will engage customers and operate their retail businesses over the next 5 to 10 years? I need to map out how technology trends, market shifts, and customer behaviors are going to evolve across Southeast Asia, ensuring that solutions position clients for multiple possible futures while maintaining both scalability and adaptability. How much does that forward thinking scenario planning approach to questioning resonate with how you might make decisions?
And since I only have 40 score to spare, I'll give
Thanks.
this one only 10.
Okay.
With a very, very specific reason. Not that I underestimate the importance of the long-term planning, but with technology where things change in very, very fast and very frequent, we cannot overthinking too long. This is very specific to my industry. I mean, I'm not speaking on very much on everything else, but with the project that we run with our clients, we always tell, hey, let's find something that we can deliver within 4 months. If I want to do a project longer than 4 or even longer than 6 months, by the time we end the project, it's become irrelevant what we do. So not saying that we don't have the long-term vision, but then we have to able to execute in very, very much and very short milestones because technology change. But we never know AI in maybe a year ago, but how things change every month nowadays, always new stuff. So we cannot afford overthinking, but obviously planning need to be there. I would say use it more.
That's good and totally makes sense. And I could see thinking of that role as overthinking. 5 to 10 years is quite a significant amount of time when you're in the technology space. Okay, here is the next one. It's called the counter. It's the challenger of assumptions. So this persona naturally questions conventional wisdom and looks for contrarian opportunities, often finding success by zigging when others zag. So when evaluating e-commerce strategies or technology solutions, I ask myself, what assumptions are we making about how brands connect with customers that might be fundamentally wrong? What is everyone else in the digital transformation space doing that we should question? I tend to dig into why certain approaches work and whether there's a more innovative method that leverages our unique position to solve problems different. So tell me, how much does that assumption challenging, contrarian style of questioning resonate with your process?
I don't really resonate to me. I mean, I'll probably just give it 5 for myself without knowing the last one. I think it is very subjective. I'm more into looking everything and I believe in balance. I mean, it's not a contrary. I mean, because everything's have a reason to be there and you just have to find your equilibrium on all the spectrum. And sometimes you have to challenge yourself, but then it's more like not challenge, but more like finding, okay, why this differences, and are we looking into a middle ground that we're more confident, or are we following the crowd and things like that? This is much more complex than just contrarian. I just don't see myself in that.
A lot of times what I'll hear is that that's someone on my team. It's not me, but I got somebody on my team who does that work for me. They do the dirty work
Their
for me.
job to challenge, yes.
Right? Yes. All right, here's our last one. The last one is called the data driver. It's the evidence-based decision maker. So this persona relies heavily on metrics, analytics, and concrete evidence to validate decisions. They prefer proof over intuition. So before making important decisions about e-commerce strategies or client recommendations or technology investments, I ask myself, what does our performance data actually tell us about solution effectiveness, client success metrics, and long-term business impact? I want to see concrete analytics on everything from customer engagement and conversion rates to operational improvements that can validate our strategic instincts about where to focus our efforts for maximum client value. So, how much does that data-driven, evidence-focused approach to questioning resonate how you might make a strategic decision?
So I guess I'm glad I'm putting that at the last with the last 15. So that would be the second priority on my priority decision. So I think it's important. To have a data to validate everything. Sometimes you set a goal, if you don't know what your measurement is, it just doesn't make sense, right? But we also have to be very careful with the data, especially if it's historical data. Historical is something you learn, but then you don't also just dwell with that number, especially in the innovation stage when we're talking about creating something new. A lot of time we are facing in unknown, right? At Marvel, sometimes we have to create a product, and the product is really unproven in terms of solution. It's something that you have to test the market. If you bring something new, obviously the data is none. So you have to do a short iteration and rely on the agility rather than dwelling with too afraid to move on because of the past data, historical, that might not be reliable in the first place. So it just has to be careful with the data. Data is very powerful, but using it in the wrong way can also very much hinder you to progress.
So I think data is super important. I think that data is just evidence to support the things that you're deciding. And I love your point about doing something new. I talk a lot about the unique value that a company has to bring is all about creating something new, which largely relies on human perspective. And at the end of the day, all the repeatable, mundane things can be done with technology, but a unique value has to constantly be on the forefront. So you are 60% feeler, 10% planner, 5% counter, and 25% data driver.
Data.
Congratulations. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. That's just a little fun thing I like to do.
No, it's fun.
Here we go. This is how we end this thing. What is one piece of advice that you would give to leaders who are looking to leverage digital transformation in order to meaningfully grow their businesses? What would that advice be?
Well, you have to start now for sure. And digitalization, if you haven't started, you're already behind. But to do that, make sure that you are not afraid to do the baby step toward that. Digitalization is not about massive change in one day, but it's a progressive that you have to do very much continuously. So that's what would be my advice for all the leaders that want to implement digitalizations. It's not a single day movement, right? It has to be a continuous. So don't be afraid to take the baby step and continue to be agile on that.
Yes. Did you guys get that? Constant forward motion. You guys hear it from me all the time. That's exactly right. Hey, so Muliadi, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us, your expertise. Would you tell everybody where they can learn more about iCube, more about you?
Sure. Obviously, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can search my name, quite unique, Muliadi, Muliadi, and last name Jeo. So you should be able to search for me. I'm more than happy to connect with you. And our websites for our company will be iCube, ICUBE, online.com.
Thank you so much. And to our listeners, we want to thank you for tuning in. Remember, the best decisions come from great conversations. If you've enjoyed this episode, we'd love for you to subscribe it, rate it, share it with your network. Let's keep the conversation going on social media using Dynamic Decisions Podcast. And until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and keep leading with purpose.